Hi, Emma. Welcome back. It's been so long. It's been like 20, 15 minutes or whatnot.
Yes,
Um, Emma and I were talking, and we were thinking it would be cool to talk about setbacks and do an episode about that one.
setbacks.
Because we do tend to have them. It's
We do.
all of us have setbacks.
I made a massive. Oh, I've got it here. I've got a list here
A list of your setbacks.
of like
Oh,
all lots of people's setbacks.
oh, cool. We
Yeah.
can work with that. I think we would have to start off with like what's considered a setback.
Mm,
So I think generally speaking, within our community, it's like something happens and it's just puts you out of balance. You get really sick for a longer period of time. However, I also think about setbacks that can be just a day or a few days or even a week.
mm,
So I would like to keep it more broad that way.
yeah.
But let's start with you. What would you consider to be the worst setback that you've had during tapering? So not when you were dying and sanctioned and all that.
Yeah. Yeah, because
What,
that was bad.
yeah.
And also because I basically CT'd the benzo, was in this awful withdrawal, and then I got polydrugged, and all these things happened. So obviously I was
Mm,
having setback upon setback, but it was more of a like it was severe, and I was doing all the wrong things. When you're
hmm.
tapering and you're doing all the stuff, like you're doing the 10% or the 5% or even the 2% or the 1%, and
Yeah.
you've got all your knowledge, but then we can come up against these setbacks where we're just like, wow, I didn't even think that was going to be a thing, or that was going to affect me. I think when I originally reinstated the benzo, I did go back to this baseline. It was like night and day of like akathisia, psychosis, horrendous everything to, oh, I'm sitting still and I feel kind of like a human. So that was
Hmm.
miraculous, but I still had all this harm underneath. And I went and got some Reiki, and obviously, that's energy healing for anyone that doesn't know. And before all the drug stuff, it would just really relax me. And I'd always have a really good sleep afterwards. And it just does something to your nervous system, processes energies. Anyway, I went along and it gave me like a 6 week setback of waves of terror, akathisia type feelings. I mean, I really thought that I was going over the edge. And I used to do this thing where
Wow.
I'd walk in a circle when I was really bad. And I started to walk in a circle and I was like, oh my God. Anyway, it went and I just held on for dear life. I felt like I was holding on for dear life. That was a pretty bad one. When I've done like a too big a cut, so I've cut too much on my quetiapine and went from 150 milligrams to 100, which is like a huge, huge cut, but advice from a psychiatrist and anyway,
Hmm.
that was really scary because I felt like, wow, I've gone too far again. And I had the pacing started, and also this sort of feeling that I was having a stroke, like so in so much pain. Like, I mean, I can't even really explain it, but that was bad. And that went on for 2 months. Um, yeah. And obviously, I mean, the
Right.
withdrawal before went on for a good 8 months. So,
Yeah.
but that was kind of a whole different ball game because that was just a
Yeah.
mess.
I think my biggest one, there's been so many. There's been
You've
so
had
many.
so many.
The list is so long. This is why I'm writing a book. I would say the worst one was I wasn't even tapering. I was still holding on the five. And there's like a whole long story before that I was below five and I was dying and whatever.
Hmm.
But it was actually I had COVID for the first time. And this is somewhere in the summer of 2023. And I hadn't had COVID before, and I had COVID for the first time. So I was really ill. And around the same time, I had to go in for my disability check. And it was 8:30 in the morning. I was struggling so much with sleep, and still mornings are kind of a no-go for me. I remember setting the alarm to be at this very important thing that I had to because either I was going to get money or no money at all. So I was like really stressed
Mm,
about it. But I
mm,
remember that I woke up, I had too little sleep, and I was like all over severe, acute withdrawal, like being all shaky and in
mm.
terror. And I had to go to Rotterdam. I had to go to a different city to see this doctor. And literally at this meeting, I was this is so just this is a complicated story, but it basically I saw him, got COVID later, and then got the results from that. So, but I had muscle twitching in my face, and the
Mhm.
lights were too bright, the sounds were too loud, the whole thing, and I was like
Mhm.
sitting there, and this doctor was like, "Do you have what did he ask me? Parkinson's disease?" I'm like, "No, this is
Oh my
benzodiazepines." Anyway,
gosh,
it was a
yeah.
horrible day. 2 weeks later, I get COVID. I'm really ill from COVID, and then I get the call with you are not going to get disability because you didn't make enough money. And I was like, what? It's such a cultural aspect for
Mhm.
a duchy you're kind of depending on your government to help you at your sickest, and that just threw me in a massive setback. I was sick for
Yeah.
weeks. I was crying all the time because I was literally, legitimately so sad because of this happening and stressed, like how I'm gonna
Mm.
afford my life, do this legal
Hmm.
case, all this stuff. And it was a massive, massive, massive setback that lasted for weeks. That would be the biggest one for me.
Oh, yeah. COVID can really jar the system, can't it? And it's very connected to our nervous systems. I mean, ironically,
Hmm.
that's how I even got into this mess was got
Hmm.
COVID. It did something to my sinuses. I got really bad ringing in the ear. And then, oh, I was given lorazepam.
Yeah. So,
Yeah.
so I think all the other, I've had many setbacks trying to taper when obviously either I wasn't ready and
Hmm.
or the way that I did the tapers
Yeah.
weren't correct.
Yeah.
Because I remember this bizarre experience before this COVID stuff happened. I was at 5 and I was like, okay, I should do smaller cuts. And I was still just trying to figure everything out. This
Mm.
is 2023 as well.
Hmm.
And I remember that I got the compounded zero point 0.1 milligram of diazepam tablets. I still have
Hmm.
like 200 of these pills somewhere in the house. And
Yeah.
so I went from 5 to 4.9 to a different pill, 2 times 2 milligrams, and then the 9 tiny pills. And a week later, I couldn't walk. I stopped sleeping and couldn't
Wow.
walk. That's how severe it was for me. I mean, I would say all these attempts to taper
Mm.
that were unsuccessful were massive setbacks as well. I
Mm.
could just not believe that such a small decrease of a pill would just mess me up so much.
Mm.
So I remember for you, I'm not really sure if it should be called a setback, but I remember that you had this gig in Spain for the car
Mm.
commercial, and you told me about it,
Oh,
and maybe you would
yeah.
like to share that. So you had a job.
Yes, I had a job. Um, and it was like very late, early starts, which is really hard for some people in withdrawal and tapering. Getting up at like 5 a.m. and then really long days of filming. And also, when all the eyes are on you and you've got this like famous camera guy that did Oppenheimer, and all these people, and it's high pressure, and I'm in the midst of tapering. I think at that point it was like a thiopine or it could have been the lorazepam. I can't remember which one it was, but and when you're tapering, you do have this very sensitive nervous system. Even when you can feel a little bit normal, if you overdo it, then yeah, you can really. And I think I was just, I overdid it. And I remember being in the car because that was the whole thing. It was for a Volvo advert. And, he was just like, action. And, you're doing this kind of like, I'm like pretending to like look around and like I almost run someone over. That's the whole thing. And anyway, but it was just a lot of pressure in that moment. And it was really just surreal for me because I was getting quite a lot of neurological symptoms and just sitting there being like, okay, Emma, you can do this. Just like get through it. You're going to get through it. And I managed it. But wow, what a weird. And I've had moments actually in waves and setbacks and things, or just moments of having an uptick where I've done photography. So I take photos of people occasionally, like portraits and things, or weddings. And anyway, that was another stream years ago. But occasionally I do it, and I just remember going to see this woman and holding the camera and just pretending to be normal, even though I had like this really weird, like feeling that I was like, my body was going like that. And like, I was just like
Hmm.
holding the camera and I was like, okay, smile. And it's like,
Hmm.
wow, this is so fucked up and dark.
Yeah, yeah. I I had similar things happen. So I've shared that I have a job, and The only reason I get to do this job is that I don't have to work in the mornings, basically. The
Yeah.
shifts start at like 1 or 3 p.m., something along those lines, and it works perfect for me now.
Mm,
However, there were these obligated courses that I had to do to maintain this job that were in the
mm,
morning. And I had a course that was 2 days spread over 2 weeks. So I think it was a Friday, so 2 Fridays. And I had to get up really early in the morning. And I have this intense fear of my alarm going off. It's a long story. Always had that. I'm just not a morning person. It's just that's my anxiety,
okay.
being too late in the morning. I'll never get over it. I'm just not a morning person, whatever. But so in this scenario, the first day was so bad because I woke up at 5 a.m. I was like, okay, in 2 hours my alarm is going off, so I should be able to like sleep, but I'm then too afraid to go back to sleep, so I slept too little. And I remember it was like a 6 hour course. It was about how to like move people from wheelchair to bed with all of these machineries and stuff. And it was far from home. And I was like literally sitting there like with my eyes half open, like trying to like, I'm like, I'm present. At least I'm present. I'm not late. But I was
Mm,
like, I cognitively declined. I was unable
mm,
to like absorb all the information.
yeah.
So that was pretty bad. And whenever something like that happens, I need a week at least to kind of like recover from that. And
Mm,
on a more severe end of this story is that I had another course and I had some stress the days before, also related to work, so I hadn't slept well in 2 days. And then this third day, I had to go for this course, and I woke up like too early. I was like, I'm just gonna power through like I did before, and I
mm,
remember feeling kind of ill. And then I took a shower, and then I had a seizure. So that was kind of a small one, not the big ones that
mm.
I had like prior, and but it had been 2.5 years before my seizure. Last seizures were 2 years.
Mm.
That was pretty fucking scary having
Yeah.
a seizure. So I was like, okay,
Yeah.
I
Yeah.
can't
And
do
you can
this.
have these feelings that are like, when I say it's like having a seizure,
Right.
I mean,
Yeah.
that's the only way that you can explain it. It's just the weirdest thing.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
So
Um,
so
shall I go
yes,
through the
please.
list? Because recently on my page on the Psych Med Sanctuary, I did a little kind of setbacks thing and I asked people to write down things that had given them a setback. Because
Mm-hmm.
I had recently had this kind of setback with a virus slash brand crossover of my mirtazapine, changing a brand that I've been on for 3 years to a different brand, and also getting some awful virus which can hit us so much more in withdrawal because our
Mm-hmm.
immune systems are often compromised. So, people basically gave me loads of really interesting ones. Shall I go through them and we can discuss them? Yeah. So,
Yeah.
obviously, I did like the main one, alcohol. That is a definite no. I remember when I was I didn't really know what was going on with the withdrawal situation initially, and I had a beer. I was told by the doctor that I could drink alcohol. And I had a sip of a beer, and all of a sudden, I had this weird feeling that I was on a boat. I think people get this a lot, this kind of like weird rocking or this feeling that the whole world is moving. And that didn't go away for months, and it was
Oh wow.
horrendous. Yeah. And that was from
Yeah.
drinking beer.
I totally forgot to mention this. I already told you, but I had a similar experience. My mom wanted to take me to a really fancy lunch
Mm,
at a Michelin star restaurant. That's her thing, not my thing. But I was like, okay, mom, if you want to do that, then we'll do
mm,
it. And they basically had a menu prepared, so there wasn't choosing things. So it was just a
mm,
list of things that were I was going to have to eat. And some of these meals were prepared in alcohol, and I was like, "Oh, I can't have alcohol. Can you maybe make an exception for me?" And they were like, "No, but no worries because it's cooked. The alcohol will be out." And I had this, I think it
yeah.
was meat or fish or whatever it was, and there was some red wine sauce, something, and there was something with whiskey. And I was
Hmm.
like, I don't know about this, but I took it anyway. And then 2 hours later, I had explosive diarrhea at home. I barely slept that night, and I felt so horribly sick the next day. So alcohol is a
Mm,
total no-go for me.
mm,
Yeah, so I can relate.
100%. And that's good you said that because, we can think, oh, maybe it's fine. Like this woman tried to give me a cake and it was just like covered in rum, the stench of rum. And it's like, okay, that's probably going to give me a setback. Like
Yeah,
it's just the
yeah.
chemical of alcohol. It's just getting that in your nervous system, isn't it? And it's, yeah. It
Yeah,
can
because they bind on the same receptors as benzodiazepines
exactly,
do.
exactly.
Yeah.
It's the GABA receptors, and if you think about alcohol, it can stimulate us, or it can really suppress our nervous systems, and it's really stimulating for the nervous system. So I try and think about things like when I think, oh, should I have that? Is it stimulating for the nervous system? Like logically try and connect the dots, you know.
Hmm.
Here I've got magnesium. I think you put that on the comments.
Yes, I sure
That's a
did.
big one. I think
Yeah.
also magnesium is connected to the GABA, right? There's some
Yeah.
because people take that to help themselves sleep. And so when
Hmm.
you're harmed with especially benzo withdrawal, it can really affect you and people can get a setback.
Yeah, I heard from some people, I think it was back in the days when I was on the forums. This is pre-benzotired, pre-podcasting. And I was just so sick and so desperate to try just anything to help me,
Mm,
as with so many people that are
yeah.
listening probably. And there were some people that claimed that magnesium citrate specifically really helped them out. But there were like no warnings, like for some people it doesn't work or induce setbacks. So I
Mm,
bought this very expensive bottle of magnesium citrate, took one of those big white chunky pills, and it just felt like I was going through benzo withdrawal, like acute all over again. So I just tossed the bottle. I was like, oh no, 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 no,
yeah,
not for me.
no, no,
So
no, no, no. Well,
nope.
that's really interesting. Thanks for sharing that because I think it's just the weirdest thing, isn't it? Some people seem to be like, yeah, I took magnesium and I was fine. And then some people are like, yeah,
Hmm.
I was in acute benzo withdrawal. So
Yeah.
I just think like, why not just, if there's a risk, just don't go there. Like it's just nothing's
Hmm.
worth a setback. You know what I mean?
Hmm. Hmm. Totally.
Okay, so stress. Someone put down
Ha.
stress. Now this is a
Ah,
really big one, isn't it? I
maybe the
had
biggest
a
one. I
biggest
always
one.
say stress is the killer in benzo withdrawal, basically.
Yeah, because we have to navigate so much through this. Like, you know, when I reinstated the benzo, for example, at that point I had no money. Pretty much everyone had battered me because they all thought I was crazy. I was at my mum's. My mum is not okay. Like, she's really, really volatile and will just suddenly like switch. And as soon as she saw that I was better, which was kind of really fucking weird, literally like night and day in a half an hour of this reinstatement, she was just like, anyway, she went in on me. She basically physically attacked me and also
Ah.
like was just like saying like the worst things, horrible things, wanted to get me out the house. Um, and this gave me a setback for like 6 or 7 weeks of just really bad panic, terror, akathisia type feelings, all the stuff, you know. And that was from just that stressful event.
That's horrible. I'm so sorry that
Mm,
you had to go through
yeah,
that. Breaks my heart. Yeah, that's horrible.
yeah.
Yeah, stress. I mean, again, when I just earlier mentioned my biggest setback, it was stress, money stress, financial stress.
Mm,
It's like it's already so horrible that we have to go through what we are going through, and then to worry about mundane things and not being understood or even acknowledged because people don't
mm.
even acknowledge bind,
Yeah,
right? So
yeah.
it's
People
just
deny it. They're like,
yeah, they
what?
deny it. Yeah, that's just the
Mm,
stress. It's just the worst thing, and
mm,
it can be the stress of needing to be somewhere in the morning where you may not, and just all these obligations can be stressful as well. Because I remember going back into a social life, which is still kind of like on the back burner right now, but I remember I had to cancel my best friend so many times. It's like so hard to explain. Like I might have a good day. I might,
mm,
especially back then. Now I'm able to plan more,
mm,
and actually show up and not worry that I'm gonna have a really bad day. But
mm.
it's like you want to so bad, but the obligations and the stress of maybe not being well. It's just stress is horrible for
It's
people with mental withdrawal.
horrible.
Yeah.
And the pressure, like you've got things to stress about how to keep a roof over your head. You know, there's all
Yeah.
sorts of different
Oh my
dynamics that
God.
go
You were
on.
basically a gypsy for all that time. Like you were
Yeah,
traveling back and forth. I
having
remember
to
pictures
move my
of your
stuff.
car. Oh my God.
Yeah.
Uh,
And someone did actually put down here physical exertion. So like that can also be a
mm,
thing. I used to be really into my fitness. I was jumping up and down on this trampoline. I was a rebounding instructor, which is what that's called. It's called rebounding, like on a mini trampette. It's actually very good for your health, but not great for when you're tapering because that, I mean, you can't think of anything more stimulating, like shaking your brain around. It's getting your nervous
yeah.
system going. And often things like with too much cardio, you know, it can really strain our nervous systems when we're going through withdrawal, and people can get setbacks from physical exertion.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, I've heard it before on Geraldine Burns' podcast where she basically said, and this is a long time ago, with working out and stuff, try to go slow into building that up. And I think in
Yeah.
general, like if we're talking about anything. So, like magnesium or some other thing, really be careful with everything that you do and don't overdo it, especially
Yeah.
with the working out. Build up. Just do walks
Yes.
first and then maybe
Yeah.
some exercises. Don't go full on
Yeah.
gym.
Full
Like
cardio
I
or go on
would
like a
love to
big
do
bike
that.
ride or
I
yeah.
want to get rid of all the benzo weight that I put on ever since the couple
Mm.
of years, but I have to be careful. So I get that people can get setbacks with that. Yeah.
Yeah. And like I basically do walking and I do like weights at home. I don't do any cardio because well, especially as I'm tapering, it's just too much. I get really bad headaches.
Hmm.
So, okay. Some people put hair dye and perfumes. So I have heard this a
Hmm.
few times, and I think it's really when we're very sensitive and we're tapering or we're in the withdrawal phase in that kind of acute. Because I actually did have it when I was in acute. Hair dye and perfumes would actually give me just weird neurological shit going on. So it was just the
Wow.
chemical element of that was too much for my
Hmm.
nervous system. Even like I've seen people like smelling glue. Not that you would smell glue, but let's say you're gluing something together and
Right.
the
Okay.
fume goes up into your nose and even that, gets into your nervous system and can give someone a setback. So I have heard these things and it's just like just stay away from the chemicals. I basically now use natural oils. I don't use like the chemical perfumes. I just can't actually deal with the smell. But it's not like that for everyone, but it is a thing. It's a thing.
Okay. Good to know. Good to
Yeah.
know. What else you got on your list?
I have got mayonnaise and dark chocolate.
I don't know about mayonnaise,
Mhm.
but I do. I love chocolate. It's my
Yeah.
vice. I
Yeah.
do love, and I've eaten chocolate, not loads, but sometimes.
Okay.
I don't think it's given me setbacks, but if you moderate it, I would say
Yeah.
sugars. Like again, all these stimulants, coffee.
Sugar.
There's something in what's that? There is a substance in chocolate, endorphins or something. I
Oh
don't really know
yeah.
what's in it.
Yeah.
But for me, and I haven't said that on your page because we're talking about the list on the Instagram page of Emma. Um, Tomatoes.
Mm.
Tomatoes, I love tomatoes. I can talk for hours about how I love tomatoes, but I get setbacks when I eat raw tomatoes.
Interesting.
And their nightshade plant, I mean, someone told me, a coach actually, Nicole Emerson was on the show, that it is a nightshade plant. And also, you've got GABA and the glutamate is the
Mm.
opposite of that. And it's full of glutamate, tomatoes.
Interesting. Yeah.
Yeah, so I'm staying away from tomatoes. It's the weirdest shit that I have to like consider in this journey.
Mm-hmm.
Like,
Mm-hmm.
oh, like I mean, I had a really shitty day yesterday and I told you about it, and there were like many factors that could contribute to that, but I had lasagna the day
Okay.
before. So that could also be something. So
Mm.
I'm just staying away, even if it's a 1% chance that the tomatoes are
I
causing
know. You
problems.
just have to be like, okay, remove,
Yep.
remove.
Remove.
Yeah,
Yes.
no, I think it's interesting. Tomatoes can be something that even out of benzo withdrawal and harm, medication harm, people can actually have a reaction to as well. Like they are, this is this acidic element. Like I hear that a lot on people
Mm-hmm.
intolerances.
Mm-hmm.
Mayonnaise is an interesting one because I hear a lot about eggs. Eggs can be quite heavy on the gut, and I think when you're going through withdrawal, I did actually experience. I had like a breakfast scrambled egg just kind of out of my reinstatement and it was so heavy that I ended up in a really weird setback where I had to just like lie down and I had all these like surges of anxiety and it was almost like my gut couldn't take the egg and I think that can
Right.
be the same with mayo. It's like there's a lot with food, isn't there? Like we can all get these weird food intolerances through this and it's just about finding out
Right.
what are the things for you because we're all so different.
Yeah.
Someone said fizzy drinks. I can see that because of the fizz. Like it's very stimulating
Explain
to the
this fizz to
gut.
me. What's fizz? What's a
Like
fizzy drink?
a fizzy Coca-Cola or a Lilt or a Sprite or
Oh, the one with the bubbles in
the
there.
bubbles. The cut.
The
Yeah, yeah, yeah,
bubbles.
yeah,
Okay. Yes. Okay.
yeah.
Got
So
it. Got it.
I get that. Like I've been able to personally have it, but it has made me feel a bit weird initially when I was like really harmed. Now it's absolutely fine. So
Mm-hmm.
yeah.
Mm-hmm. That's an interesting one. Good to know.
Good to know. Obviously, we've covered coffee. Coffee is an interesting
Yes.
subject because some people, I used to drink coffee every day, And now I don't drink anything. I just decaf. But some people say that in withdrawal, especially if they're experiencing fatigue, they actually find that the coffee helps them. But I just feel like it's one of those things that's an accumulative effect, the same as sugar. Like you could be having sugar and not get an immediate effect, but over time
Hmm.
that's going to be causing like inflammation in your nervous system. And I think coffee is so like stimulating, and then you could
Ca
have a crash, and
Caffeine is a drug.
it's a
It
drug, and
may
it
be a
makes
natural drug, but it is a drug, people.
yeah, and it's affecting your rhythm, your bodily, your natural rhythm.
Yes.
And I
Yes. And
think,
actually, I listened to that guy's podcast, Matt Walker. He has this whole
mm,
podcast about insomnia and he tackles all these different subjects. And nicotine, also nicotine, but caffeine really messes up your sleep. It
yes,
really suppresses certain,
100%.
yes. And he
Yeah.
was like, basically, what he said on his show was basically, the other stuff that's in coffee is good for you, but the
Mm,
caffeine is bad. That's what basically what it came
yeah.
down to. So decaf can be, there's a lot of antioxidants in it, so there are like
Yes.
many good features, but
Yeah.
especially if you're like dealing with insomnia, I would say, and
I
just benzo
know.
withdrawal.
And I speak to people who are like really symptomatic, and obviously I know what it's like. You've got no vices, you've got no alcohol, no sugar, no nothing. And they're like,
Yeah,
"Well, I don't have a huge reaction when I have coffee, so I've been having coffee." And it's like, but you're so symptomatic, you're struggling with your sleep. Like I would just cut everything out.
me
Like,
too. I cut
yeah.
it out. I'm only drinking decaf these days. Ironically, interestingly, I did not drink coffee for 34 years. I
Mm,
started to drink coffee because when I got switched to the flurazepam, I felt kind of woozy. I was like, oh, this is weird. Let me try to counter
mm,
that. So dumb. I mean, so naive about not knowing
mm.
about these drugs. But I functioned my whole life. But 34 years, I was able to function without coffee. So, I'm not missing it now either.
Yeah.
And I think it's a lot of people get in trouble, like non-benzo people too, with coffee where they're trying to stay awake because they need to be productive
Mm.
and it's basically you're just borrowing something again. You're not, it's not,
I know. It's
don't
like
do it.
you're not doing it on your natural rhythm. And
Yes,
I think
yes.
before I was that person, I'd get up in the morning and I needed my coffee and I'd go and get it. And I was in that whole thing.
Yeah,
But then I realized that my nervous system was always on this fight and flight. And then I'd have this crash and I'd feel low. And anyway, now I don't have any of that. And I'm sleeping. Well, I am on mirtazapine, which is helping me with sleep. But I just don't have that urge. I've completely got over the whole coffee thing. It's
yeah,
possible, people. Get
yes.
that coffee out.
Yes, and you can
Um,
actually taper that the way that I did it. Don't cold
mm,
turkey it because I tried and it did not go well. But I'm using
yes.
the filtered coffee. Is it called grounded coffee? The one
Oh
when
yeah, yeah, yeah,
and
yeah.
you can basically mix with actual coffee with the
And
decaf
the
and taper your
decaf.
way down to decaf. And I think I did it in 2 weeks. So it's not
Pretty
nine.
interesting.
What's it now? 4 years of my benzo
Yeah.
taper. It's so easy to get rid of. So highly recommend.
Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah.
Like tapering off it is a really, really good because I think a lot of people worry about that. If I just stop it, I'm going to have a withdrawal from the coffee, but there's a way to gradual.
Yes.
Um, okay, we've got supplements. Obviously, this is a big one because,
Mm,
well, when we're in withdrawal, we want to try
yeah.
anything and everything to help ourselves. We go to like naturopaths and holistic people, and I went to all sorts of people, and they were like, try vitamin B or vitamin C through an IV and all
Uh,
these things, and that's going to help you. I hear a lot that people get setbacks from supplements. Yeah. So I just, again, feel like it's just not even worth it, to be honest.
yeah, I totally agree with you. There,
Yeah.
what did I try next to magnesium? I tried melatonin for a while, did not work.
Mm,
I tried, which I did not know was actually very risky. This is before I discovered the benzos were, well, what it is, so harmful.
mm.
I tried hops and valerian roots, and they both work on your GABA receptors. So
Yes.
I would say stay away from them if you're harmed by
Valerian,
benzos.
ashwagandha, like there's all
Oh
these
my
kind of,
God.
and I know what it's like when you have insomnia and you're just like, anything, please, anything.
Yeah.
But
Even a hammer on the head would have sufficed when I
yeah,
wasn't
I,
sleeping. I mean,
and
just
and I
hit me
know
with a
how like
hammer.
desperate it can be.
Yes.
But it's just these things don't help. I mean, they just don't help.
I
I
would
mean,
say scientifically, it's not proven that they help.
no,
Scientifically, it's not proven.
no.
So that's all I have to say. If
Also,
you
I
feel
have
like
to
it's working
say,
for you, great. But
exactly. Like I was going to say, like we're all different, and maybe it might work for you, like you could take some valerian and maybe you get something from it. But I don't know. In withdrawal, yeah.
Yeah.
Okay, so someone put medical gaslighting, which I get. When you go into the doctors and they're not listening to you, they're not believing you, you're symptomatic, you're in a horrendous state, and it can uptick your symptoms, it can put you in a wave. Just that
Yeah,
stress of
it is
having to
stress.
get the right help and be able to be listened to was just horrendous.
Well, if someone said on your page that it gave them a setback, I think I can understand why, because you're
Mm,
so ill and you're so
mm,
sick, so you're in a position where you need help and you're trying to explain this to people, and
yeah.
I'm kind of
And they're
like,
just not hearing you.
yeah, and you're like, I found all these scientific articles and
Yeah.
an
And they're
action
like,
manual.
no.
Yeah, it is horrible because
Yeah.
you really need people to believe you once you found
Really
out what's wrong
do.
with you. You
You
really,
really do.
I
I
had
was
to
on
fight
um
as well. Yeah.
I was on this online forum, well, forum like this online support group, the groups, and you all get on Zoom. And anyway, this lady was in there and she was saying how her doctor wasn't going to prescribe the medication to her anymore. Because she just
Oh.
didn't believe in tapering and she just didn't, she was like, this is ridiculous. I'm going to stop giving you this medication. Anyway,
Oh.
the next thing I know, this woman has committed suicide because of the stress. She was like, well, I'm not going to be able to get this medication. I can't go through a withdrawal again. I'm going to be cold turkeyed off this medication. I would rather end my life now. And she ended her life.
Wow. And it
Yeah.
happens so much.
Mm-hmm.
People don't have a clue on the earth that this is happening a lot of times. There are
Ah.
a lot of
People
suicides.
just getting cut off of their
Yeah.
medication. And obviously, even the withdrawal itself is enough to commit, want to maybe to
Yeah.
suicide.
I
But
think the Washington Post or Journal, the one that just recently did an article about benzos, I think they're looking for people that got cut off and survived to share their story. So I
that's
think
really
it's,
interesting.
yeah,
Yeah.
so there's some talk about that.
It
But yeah,
happens
that's
with benzos,
horrible.
doesn't it? Because
Yeah,
people are like, you're an addict. And this woman was
yeah,
called an addict, well, you're
yeah,
clearly addicted to this. No, no, no. I'm physically dependent on this and I need to slowly taper off in order to survive, not because
yeah,
I want to get fucking high. So yeah, that is just so sad and so horrendous. People get cut off and called an addict and then
yeah.
yeah. Yeah.
That's terrible. That's
Yeah.
horrible.
Okay, so changing from pill to liquid.
Okay, so I did not register that. I did not put that on your Instagram. I
Yeah.
can share a bit about my personal
Yeah, and the milk,
tapering.
definitely share about that.
Oh, the milk. Yes. Oh,
Yeah,
gosh. Oh, I'll definitely share. So
yeah.
I tried the liquid diazepam, aka Valium, once.
Mm-hmm.
But this was I was in a horrible benzo withdrawal. I was in a horrible place for a very, very long time, people. So I think late 2021 was when I almost died.
Mm-hmm.
2022 was just hell on earth. The whole year. It's a long time. I
Mm.
slowly got back to life in 2023, I think. But anyways, it's 2022. I've discovered the Ashton Manual. I'm not podcasting yet. I'm on the forums, and I did not know what to do. All I knew it was that I went too fast, and I just wanted to get off of it so desperately. I hated the drug by then so much.
Mm.
And I'd heard about this liquid form of diazepam, so I got the liquid form. But I was at 3 point something. I was really low on the benzos, but I was having akathisia. I was shaking. I wasn't sleeping. I
Mm-hmm.
just wanted to
Mm-hmm.
die every day. So just mind you, I'm in a terrible, horrible place trying to do this liquid taper. I did not do any crossing over. I immediately started to cut with the water. It was a
Mm.
horrible experience. I was doing so bad. I was putting like dry crackers in my fridge, just contacts. I was messed up. And
Mm.
after 2 days, I or 3 days, I got so sick and I dropped the bottle by accident on the kitchen floor. I have to pay out of
Mm.
pocket. It's not reimbursed like my
Mm.
pills. My pills are basically free in this country.
Mm-hmm.
But the liquid I had to pay 66 euros and I was shaking all the time and I just dropped it on the floor. And I remember, kind of hilarious in this scenario, I write about this in my book. Frank's like, we have to save the 66 euros of diazepam that's laying on the floor. My first thought was like, why did they do this in a glass bottle? I'm so shaky. I need plastic. I need something that's
Mm.
dummy proof. And Frank's suggestion was to get kitchen towels and to like absorb it. And I was like, and I was done by that time. I was like ready to die. I was like, I'm not doing this. We're not doing this. We're not doing this.
Yeah.
So that was a horrible experience. However, once I restart my taper in hopefully in the near future, that's the way that I will be doing it. But I will be doing
Okay.
a crossing over period of time. I'm
Yes.
not, yeah, I know more now.
Exactly.
I'm more
Yeah.
knowledgeable now.
Yeah.
But it's really the way that I want to do it. The milk, some
Mm.
people have suggested that you can do the milk titration, whole milk. Like it needs to be a certain type of milk, blah, blah, blah. It did not work well for me.
Mm.
I tried it with the 5 milligram pill and immediately, like day one, I got sick, like really, really,
Mm.
really, really sick. And I stopped sleeping and the whole thing. And then I tried it with the 2 milligram pills and then one, and no, I
Hmm.
just got so
It just didn't
ill.
work for
It
you.
did not
Yeah.
work for me.
Yeah.
So, yeah.
And it's interesting that you did that because obviously with liquid taper, like with my lorazepam pill that I had, it would dissolve in water. So I just did a direct into water and that was it. So nothing was really changing for me. Whereas I know that with milk, that's adding a new thing. And for your thing was that this Valium diazepam just wasn't dissolving. So you were trying
Right.
to make this solution with the milk to make it more kind
Mm.
of evened out, weren't you? But it just wouldn't work.
Yeah.
People do this liquid compounding, which obviously you're speaking about, which some people are absolutely fine with it.
Mm.
But some people do get a reaction because it might mean that you're going over to a different brand or it's, you know, things like that. But
Yeah.
if you just do that gentle crossover, and
Yeah.
you can even spend a month doing that,
Yeah.
crossing over, it's well worth doing, and then it
Yeah.
won't be such a
Yeah. And
yeah.
and I'm not taking any risk. And I'm actually preparing myself for it when this moment comes, and I'm not really sure when the moment is for me to taper. There's financial reasons, lots of reasons, whatever. Holding doesn't seem to kill me like a lot of people would say back in the day, like
Yeah.
you'll get tolerance and die.
Hmm.
I'm a living example of that not happening. So fuck you. All those people that said that to me. Fuck you.
Mm.
Anyways, we're getting more knowledgeable now, as we know that this is working for people.
Mm.
Um, I'm expecting that I may get symptoms just from crossing over. And I'm okay with that as long as it's tolerable. As long I want to get adjusted to the liquid form to move on. So I'm going to be super careful once I do it.
100%. And also, when you are doing the pill to liquid thing, like it's totally normal to experience side effects or some stuff going on. You know, like when
Hmm.
I did it over 2 weeks, my lorazepam, and I did experience some weird stuff, some dizziness, like this feeling I was falling through the floor, but nothing, you didn't like completely push the apple cart over. I was just like, okay, noticing these things. And then eventually it leveled out. So,
Hmm.
yeah, it's okay if there are some symptoms when you're crossing over. It's totally normal and they can completely level out to just normality again.
Hmm. Hmm.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. Okay. So brand change. So obviously, if you're brand sensitive, this doesn't happen to everyone. Some people are absolutely fine.
Hmm.
But if you change your manufacturer, that can cause problems. And as we were discussing that before, weren't we? In our last
Yeah.
one,
We did. Yeah.
that I recently had that with my betazepine. But again, we're all so different. But I just think that when you're tapering, you just want no changes,
Right.
right?
Right. And also seeing this is about setbacks, this episode, I do want to point out that, and I've pointed it out like in general in this whole tapering process, something that I think that we need to learn once
Mm.
we have a setback is that we have this sort of toolkit, a wellness toolkit on how to like navigate throughout the setback.
Mm.
So for me, this is maybe some tangible advice to people that maybe I would give is for when I have a setback and it's like I know that I'm in the setback and I'm not sure how long I'm going to be in that setback, I basically communicate this to my
Mm.
partner, my whoever's in my life. I'm like, I'm not doing well so that they know that if I had a date with them next week or there's some things planned that I might cancel
Yeah.
the plans. I mean, they should know by now that this still can happen. I still have my setbacks here and
Yeah.
there. And so, I mean, it's just getting less severe each time and whatever. But it's
Mm.
like communicate that you're not doing well. The second thing would be is just cancel all your plans and cancel every obligation that you think that you have. Who
Mm,
cares if your house is going to be a stinky mess?
mm.
You know, I'm very tidy and clean, but if I'm really in a setback, I'm not going to worry about those things. For me,
Yeah,
it's
just let those things go. Yeah.
calmness, all that.
Do
Yeah.
what you gotta do to get through the
Yes.
fucking setback.
Definitely. Definitely.
No, no, definitely. That's a really good point. And I think it's that whole thing as well, isn't it? When you're in it and you're like, oh my God, when is this going to end? How long is this going to last for? Just
Yeah.
hold on. Your nervous system will calm again.
Yeah. Definitely.
Yeah.
More things on the list?
Okay. I think that's someone put B6 that they had a really bad reaction from B6 vitamin. I have heard of the B vitamin situation
Hmm.
because a lot of people tell you to take it. It's a very common one. But some people will get, I mean, this one woman got a setback for I think 5 or 6 weeks just from taking a B vitamin. So,
Wow.
it's just these things that we just don't know, do we? We just don't know. So we might
No.
as well just I mean, I've tapered off 2 medications, quetiapine, lorazepam, no supplements, healthy diet,
Hmm.
no coffee, no sort of stimulants. Okay, the occasional bit of dark chocolate.
Right.
Um, and that's it really. I haven't
Yeah,
needed.
I tapered my propranolol because in a way, I was polydrugged as well.
Mm,
Not as severe as you though. You were like severely polydrugged and
mm.
gosh, horrible. But I was on propranolol and I was on God, what was that antihistamine called? Promethazine? Promethazine. I
Oh
was on that
God.
one as well. I know, I know. But it's a long story. The psychiatrist that was giving it to me said it wasn't harmful and
Mm-hmm.
all that, even the
Mm-hmm.
propranolol. But the propranolol, I shared this story probably on earlier episodes. I actually asked for propranolol because the Ashton manual stated that it was something that we could use in withdrawal. But
Mm-hmm.
I was just too low on too low of a dose of benzos and severe. I should have updosed or reinstated with the gift of hindsight. But I tapered that off okay-ish. I would say it was horrible tapering the propranolol, and I went too fast first, which almost literally killed me. I fell to the ground like a dead
Mm-hmm.
body from the bridge. But I did taper off that without any supplements and whatever. And the promethazine, yeah, I just tapered over a few days. So,
Mm-hmm.
and I'm holding, I'm not taking any supplements, and I think I'm the better for it.
Definitely. I think it's just, you just don't want setbacks. You just don't. And
No,
it's
you
it's
don't.
bad enough. I mean, the whole thing is so it's not the torture. It's just like anything not to be any more torture.
Yeah.
Um, okay, well, lastly, I'll say operations. So I know this is a big thing for people, and I
Mm,
also had a situation where I had a wisdom tooth that had decided to come through, and I needed to go to the dentist, and they were going to
mm,
give me local, but they were also wanted to give me antibiotics because it could easily get infected, and I actually decided to not take the antibiotics and I got the wisdom tooth out. I did loads of mouthwash and I was fine. I didn't take any antibiotics, but I just remember that being really scary. I know that antibiotics are sometimes needed, but the way I saw it was I'm just going to get this done. If it gets infected, then I'll do,
yeah.
but I don't often doctors want you to take antibiotics even before you've had this, the thing. They just want
Yeah.
it's all this preventative stuff. And it's like
Yeah.
antibiotics are so hard for the gut. They're so harsh for the gut. We often
Yeah.
don't need them. And I got through this wisdom tooth totally fine. Then I had an operation. So, unfortunately, in the psychiatric units, I developed this awful thing called a perianal abscess, which is also very common in benzo withdrawal. Weirdly, people
Oh.
have contacted me and said they've had this. It's
Oh,
quite an
wow.
embarrassing thing to have. So, it's not something that people would broadcast, but obviously, I've just been like, I've got a perianal abscess.
Right, right.
Yeah, and it's the most awful thing. It's this abscess that's inside your bum cheek. So, in order to get rid of it, you actually need an operation. I had an operation in psychosis. I mean, at that point, I thought my life was over and I was never going to come back. And I actually thought and kind of hoped that the operation would send me off to sleep. But anyway, I came back to life and somehow got better, not from the operation. But anyway, the perianal abscess did not go away. So even after that operation, it was
Oh,
still there. And I was just too terrified. Once I'd stabilized to a better baseline from the reinstatement, I thought, I don't want to do that's so jarring. So I managed this abscess for 2 years. And I had to wait on the NHS as well for the operation. There's a big waiting list. And by the time I got it done, I was tapering, I think it was the lorazepam. And I remember going in and I had this letter from my psychiatrist, a psychiatrist who takes this seriously. And it said that I had bind on the letter, which I think is really useful. If you've got anything in writing, when you're going into the doctors, they just love that shit. Do you know what I mean? They just fucking love it, especially from a
Yeah.
psychiatrist. So
Right.
anyway, had that. Immediately they took me seriously. And it went down to, they gave me fentanyl. They didn't give me any benzos. Fentanyl to put me to sleep. And they also gave me
Oh, propofol. Propofol.
yes, that one.
Propofol. They gave you
They
fentanyl? I'm kind of like gagged right now, but okay.
yeah.
But
So
they do.
I
I read about it recently because it's such a problem in the US and blah blah blah. But actually, so I learned that it
mm,
was used in hospitals before it became a drug crisis in the US and Canada.
exactly.
Yeah.
So it's something that, and I just spoke to so many people before this. I was like, what's safe? And actually, fentanyl came up as a thing. It's like actually you can take this to be put to sleep.
Right.
Then afterwards, they often want to give you these things called like nausea, anti-sickness things that they put in your IV. And this is
Oh.
something that you're not really told that they give you, they just give it to you.
Oh.
And that was something that came up for me through talking to people online, and they said, don't have the anti-nausea. And so I said, please, I don't want any of that. So I just went straight in with being put to sleep without
Wow.
any additional things. Because this is the thing. It's like, as soon as you got that IV in you, you're like, fucking hell, like they could put anything in
Yeah.
my drip. Like, I don't know what they're going to put
It
in me,
is.
you know?
Yeah. It's super scary. It reminds me of a story that I heard on Geraldine Burns' podcast. I forget his name all the time. Anyways, he shared his story, long, horrible benzo story like all of us. But he got off of benzos and he needed surgery. And he specifically told the people at the hospital, do not give me a benzodiazepine. And they
Yeah.
gave him a benzodiazepine anyways, which caused a setback for him.
Ugh.
So it's crazy that we have to go
They don't
into
listen, you know, and
no.
you can say these things. And that's why this letter, I think I honestly saved my life, this letter, because they were really, I think as soon as they've got that on paper, if anything would go wrong, I could like sue them, basically. So
Yeah.
it's like that is the line.
But you also
Um,
have to go in, apparently, especially us buying people, we have to go in prepared and be like, I don't want this, I don't want that.
yeah, you
Be
really
careful with
do.
this, because else they will just give you stuff without you even knowing about it or without your
100%.
permission. That's crazy.
100%. Like
Such a
those
good point.
anti-sickness things. Like I'm not a doctor, I'm not a surgeon. I don't know what they actually give you.
Right.
So that was really interesting. And I came out of that and I was fine. And I did have an uptick in tinnitus and some weird stuff going on afterwards, like neurological stuff, but nothing. It was mild. But I did feel that my nervous system was affected by that, of course, because you're being
Hmm.
put to sleep. But I was also so grateful not to have this perianal abscess because it got to the stage where I was in so much pain with it. So anyway, so it's possible you can have an operation. You don't have to have a setback. It's possible, guys, but you just have to go in with that, like either a letter from
Yeah.
someone that you can back you and just knowing your shit.
Yeah.
Yeah.
That's so helpful. This is so informative. Thank you so much. This is a very good episode. Thank you very much. So
Okay.
so thank you for that. So if people are listening and they want to contact you for help,
Yes.
where can they find you?
Yeah, so I've got the PsychMed Sanctuary that's on YouTube, and I've also got it on Instagram, and it's the PsychMed Sanctuary. And then I've got an email, the psychmedsanctuary at gmail.com. And I've been helping people, I've been supporting them through this. I'm currently in training as a counselor. So that's going on underneath it all. But also, I would say that, I mean, personal lived experience with this is probably the most important. And yeah, just doing a lot of research on how to taper off different
Yeah.
medications.
Yes. I will put all the links in the episode description if you
Yeah.
are interested. Thank you again so much for your time, Emma, and talk soon. Hopefully we can do an episode when you're mirtazapine free as well.
Oh my God.
Thank
Yeah.
you so much for your time.
Thank you.